Hey you guys, what's up? Welcome back to Two Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys our final review of Victim of the New Disease by All That Remains. So to open the floor here today with this review, I have to say this album is pretty good. I made the comment last week that All That Remains wanted to appeal to a more mainstream audience with this album, kind of, you know, a little bit detracted from their older sound, kind of similar to what Disturbed tried to do, but where Disturbed failed, I feel that All That Remains succeeded. Okay. I feel this album is enjoyable overall. I didn't, nothing really bothered me on this album. That being said, I wasn't in love with this album. One big thing I find is that they really made a deep mix of quote-unquote older sound and newer sound. You have a song like Fuck Love, which is brutal, it's kind of getting back to the roots of what All That Remains was back with older albums. And then you have a song like Everything's Wrong, which kind of sounds like the flip side of that. A lot more progressive. It kind of felt a lot more in the vein of melodic death metal, even though there was no growling in that kind of song, it just felt that way to me. I found a lot of these songs reminded me a little bit more of a band like Symmetry, which is in the melodic death metal vein. So I feel like perhaps this band as a whole is kind of making a shift, not completely, because they still have a bit of the metalcore sound in their music. But I looked a little bit at their last record, which is called Madness, which came out last year, I believe.
Oh yeah, maybe last year or the year before, or something like that. Yeah.
It was rather recent, and it was kind of the same thing from, like, in comparison to this album. It was the same general concept. Super hard, heavy first song, then you get some melodic stuff, and then it's all mixing in with each other. One funny thing to mention, though, for me, if there's anything that grew the most on me, it was I Meant What I Said.
Okay.
So that song, I don't know, it was just the hook of this song, the chorus of this song. I loved how it sounded, and I just, every time it came up, I'm like, yeah, this is nice. It's really pretty sounding. It's so good. Like, it just really gripped me. I think it's because of, I guess, I don't want to say the mainstream nature of the songwriting for this album, but a lot of it is very catchy.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's kind of what happened with the song, but I still enjoyed it, and the ending to that song is also really cool with the awesome heavy riff that happens. It just kind of just fades away though. I feel like they could have done a lot more with that and made it even nastier, maybe extended the song, would have made it even better. I talked about Wasteland last week as being my favorite. I would say it's not really my favorite anymore, just because I feel like the switches between the super heavy parts and the melodic parts is too disjunct. It just flips like a switch, and I'm not really a fan of that. It's just very like, oh, we're here now.
You kind of get used to it, but I know what you mean.
You get used to it, but I don't know, it's starting to bug me a little bit more and more as the week went on.
Yeah, it's a weird creative choice.
Yeah, it kind of sums up the whole album in a way. Like the heavy and the light stuff put together.
Yep.
So, you can say that. What were your thoughts after a week of all the, I don't want to say ballads, because there was only like, what, one actual ballad? All the lighter stuff. What are your thoughts on that after a week?
Well, you know what, I'll say basically similar to you. This album actually did grow on me throughout the week. There was no songs that I was skipping. There was no songs that I felt like, oh no, this again. I didn't get bored or tired of anything. And actually my number one song on the album, my favorite song on the album, is actually the ballad, one of the ballads. And that is Just Tell Me Something. Wow. Which is gonna come as a shock to you, I'm sure.
It definitely is.
I'm kind of known as the guy on this channel that only likes the heavy stuff. Like, oh, Lyle doesn't know what he's talking about. He only likes the heavy, this, super fast double bass and blah, blah, blah. It's not true. I like soft stuff too, when it's good, when it suits my needs, when it tickles my fancy, you know what I'm saying? So Just Tell Me Something, I think, is an amazing song. I love the song. And the reason I love the song is because of the vocals. Now, Phil is a great vocalist. He always has been, but I think on this album specifically, he is just nailing it on every single song. And that's the song with Danny Worsnop as a guest vocalist. They have similar voices, but you can still tell them apart. They're distinct but similar, which I think is a beautiful match for that song. But the harmonies these guys are hitting on that song, I'm like, wow, like that just sounds so friggin' good. But yeah, that song like just kept climbing for me to the point where like I'm singing every word now. Like, I love that song. It's a great song, and I feel like that's what a rock ballad should sound like. Disturbed tried it, they failed, in my opinion. Everybody has their different flavors or different opinions, right? This is what a rock ballad should sound like. It should still have that little bit of griminess. When you get to the pre-chorus of that song, it's got that metalcore vibes in there. Then it gets to the chorus and you're back to the ballad. The verses, you got ballad, but with that almost like semi-mid-tone angry voice. It just, the whole thing works as a full package. I love it. But speaking of vocals, man, there's stuff sprinkled throughout this album vocally that's just awesome. An example in the song Broken, which is track number 7, you get, I think, a second verse, third or fourth line. He says a line, and the growl that he says at the end of this line, like that he does, and like the gurgle in that growl is just so brutal. And the fact that he's picking certain points to do stuff like that, and there's certain little screams here and there throughout the album, it's just so well done. It's so well executed. The guy's really well rounded in his vocal talents, both clean vocals, low harshes, high harshes, the whole spectrum. He is on point the whole album.
Yeah, he was really impressive this album.
Yeah.
And about Just Tell Me Something, I kind of liked Danny Warsnop's vocals specifically on that song a little bit more than Phil.
I agree with that too. I think Danny's, but I don't think it's his voice that I like better. It's that he has the second verse, and I think the second verse is just a little stronger lyrically and a little stronger in some way than the first verse.
Like, his voice just kind of clicked with me more.
It could be that, I'm not sure, but I do like Danny's part a little better, but I do not take anything away from Phil's part.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. It's still great.
It's still great.
Like, throughout the whole album, his vocal performance is fantastic.
Right.
That being said, if I were to pick a shortcoming of this album, I would say the guitar solos are really nothing special, I found. There was no guitar solo that really stood out to me. Whenever one came on, it would happen. It's technically proficient, but nothing really climbed up for me in terms of guitar work.
Well, here's the thing with the guitar work on this album. So, as you all know, Ollie Herbert passed away recently. Rest in peace, Ollie Herbert. This is not his best work, okay? You hear his style in there, you hear that signature sound that he has, but it's definitely not his best work. Now, I will say that Ollie Herbert's work is what got me into All That Remains in the first place. When that song 6 came on Guitar Hero 2, and I played that shit, and I was like, holy crap, this is awesome. And then I picked up the album and basically became a fan of this band. It was because of Ollie Herbert's guitar playing. And that whole album, The Fall of Ideals, which people are glad we didn't mention it on last week, but here we go. But that whole album, guitar-wise, is sick. Like, it's got the coolest stuff on it. From like pitch harmonics, tremolo picking, awesome solos, everything under the sun you got on there. But this album, as we talked about, it's a lot more soft, a lot more accessible, so you don't get a lot of that crazy fast stuff. You do get it, but it's just a lot more sprinkled.
Yeah.
Right? It's a lot more few and far between. But, you know, I wish the guitar solos were a little more fierce, but unfortunately you can't win them all.
Yeah.
So
didn't really stand out too much to me.
I still think it's good work though.
It is good. It's not bad. Like I said, it's proficient. Like, he knows what he's doing. You know.
Yeah.
But nothing was just like very special to me.
Right.
Nothing jumped out.
One more criticism I have about the album as a whole is we talk a lot about track listing and track placement.
Mm-hmm.
I have one issue, and I feel like it would have been genius if they flipped the first track and the last track, because the whole album is basically about relationships. It's a lot of relationship drama kind of stuff. So you have the first track, Victim of a New Disease. New, that word implies beginning or start, right? Victim of a New Disease. Then you have all these songs about relationships, then the last song is just fuck love. Like, I'm done, fuck love.
That would have been great.
And then at the end of fuck love, you got this sick, like 12-second long primal scream.
One of the longest screams I've heard.
Yeah, it's worth listening to just for that. If you like screams and metal and shit like that, just listen to that song. Worth it just for that.
The end.
But to have that scream as the very end capping off the album would have been brilliant, right?
Yeah.
So flip the first and last song and you got perfect track listing in my opinion.
Yeah, they did a good job of dispersing like what was, you know, heavy and what was soft and mixing it around. So
Yep.
That was good. The only times it kind of bothered me is when I was shuffling the album and I'd get two soft ones back to back. That's just shuffling. That has nothing. That's no fault on the band.
I didn't even mind doing that either. Like,
depends on my mood.
The soft songs weren't soft to the point where they were like boring or sappy or anything like that, even though they were acoustic and they were about relationships and breaking up and stuff like that, but they had a hard element to them. Whether it's the attitude in his vocals or maybe the style of the rhythmic patterns, I don't know what it was, but it has edge. And that's what I like in my music. It needs to have edge. It can be soft, but it needs to have that edge to it.
And they had that for you.
They had that for me throughout this whole album.
Well, with that being said, let us get to ratings. I'm gonna rate it first. And I think this is, like I said, it's a good album. It aged fine on me throughout the week, and you know, like I said, these guys succeeded with making a more accessible album but still staying true to their name. That being said, the album doesn't stand out as something really super tip-top tier for me, but it's a solid album, and I think this album would actually be great for people that want to get into metal. Like, I think this is a really good entry point for people because of the melodics, because of what's heavy. It's a really good balance, but I don't feel like it's the best of its kind, but it's still solid, so I give it a solid 7 because it's strong. It has a lot of enjoyable things. It's just not toe tag level for me. So, there it is. How about you?
You know what? You basically echoed everything that I was gonna say.
I read your mind.
You read my mind. Like, this album, it's solid. It is a solid album. It's very accessible. It's a great album for people that want to try to get into metal. It's got that soft stuff. It's got the heavy stuff. It's all mixed together very nicely, like we've said a million times in this video. But I do like my music a little heavier. You know what I mean? It's not like, you guys aren't wrong when you say, oh, Vile likes the heavy stuff. I do like the heavier stuff. So when I'm listening to this, it took a while for it to grow on me, which is not a bad thing per se, but I mean, it would probably score a few more points if I liked it more right out of the gate, which I didn't. But with that said, I'm still gonna give it a decent score in my opinion. I'm giving it a 6, which is not as high as you, but I still think it's a decent score. It's a lot higher than I was originally gonna give it at the beginning of the week when we first started listening to it. But as I said, grew on me. I started really appreciating the vocals, number one thing. And you know, I was noticing little parts here and there that I was like, oh yeah, that's cool, that's cool. But it just lacks a little bit of heaviness for me personally. But I mean, again, this is just my opinion, my rating. I give it a 6. You guys definitely gotta listen to it. You gotta let us know what you guys think in the comments below. What are your favorite songs? Do you guys mind the ballads and the soft stuff? Do you like more of the heavy stuff like me? Let us know what you think. But like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. We always got stuff coming for you guys. I'm Vile Self.
I'm TV Fish.
We'll see you guys on the next one.
Keep those horns up.
Peace.